back with Sketching Up with whatever you want to say. Sketching Up is back for another week. We are glad to see you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. I know it's a day late. Happy Black Friday. And speaking of Black Friday, we're going to give you some entertainment Black Friday deals and some busts from Black Friday or from entertainment as we go on. Chris and Matt here for another episode of Sketching Up. Make sure you follow us on all the socials at Sketching Up Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, or you can follow Schnabel Studios anywhere you get your social media, whether that be X/Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can subscribe to us on YouTube as well so you can see clips, or follow your favorite podcasts and videos right there. See schnabelstudios.com for more if you want more on everything that is done there. I have been teasing something all day. It's something I've been really excited to talk with you about. I want to make my screen smaller. All the listeners are like, what the hell are you talking about? Here we go. Okay. So I've been wanting to talk with you all day about this. I knew it would be a great lead-in for the show. Okay. Have you seen what's going on with Jay Leno?
Okay.
I knew it would be great. So let me give context. Let me give context.
But that was a topic of conversation all day yesterday when I went out with friends to
Yes,
watch football.
it's so for anybody that doesn't know, something's going on over there. So there's two stories. The one I want to talk about more is probably the one you're also thinking of. But in almost, it can't be even a month's time, he had like a car explode in his face where he caught on fire.
Mhm.
And now he fell 60 feet down a hill and is completely like battered on one side of it. He's wearing an eye patch. He's got his arm in a sling and a cast. His hand is all messed up. He said he fell 60 feet. So he said he was performing by Pittsburgh or in Pennsylvania somewhere.
He was in
Pittsburgh. Okay. He was in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And he was trying to go. First of all, he says, I didn't have a car at the time. Hilarious. The dude owns 7,000 garages in Los Angeles with cars in them. He owns 1 million cars.
But this guy's worth
millions.
He's worth
He doesn't have a car.
millions. He's in a pretty well-to-do city, which is Pittsburgh. Like, he's not in like Akron, Ohio.
He's
like,
in a good spot. He's in a good spot.
Pennsylvania, where I'm sure there's a bunch of like black car services or
Uber. That's what I was gonna say. But hold on, let me finish the story. So he's going to this restaurant. He says it's about a mile or 60 feet down this hill. And he says I could go down the hill. And he goes whoop. And in the interview, he goes whoop, and he falls down the hill. And he hits his head on a rock apparently. But then he doesn't even go to the hospital. He just goes straight to the show afterwards. And he does his comedy show, and then he goes to the hospital, and he gets slung up and all this stuff. And now he's just beaten and battered and messed up. And it's just bizarre for so many reasons. Like you said, there's got to be car services. You got to be able to get a car there, if anything, right? Like get some kind. How did he get to the hotel? How did he get there?
Well, the best is, I saw another like Instagram person talk about like one. They showed a picture of where the hotel was and where the hill is. One, that is not a hill you go, oh, I'm going to walk down it. It was a cliff. It wasn't a grass hill that you just kind of, it's a little, like if the grass was wet, you may slip and fall. This was a cliff, okay? This is like a 60-foot cliff, okay? Then in the background of the picture is the hotel he was staying in. He was staying in
Hampton Inn. That's
Inn.
So okay.
Why a man who is worth millions lives in a fucking mansion in LA is staying at a Hampton Inn? I don't understand it. And I'm surprised that we're not hearing more about like, oh, it's Hollywood. He said something like to the Hollywood elites and they all want him.
Well, that's like, what a lot of people are joking. Like, where was Conan during all this and stuff like that? People are joking. I will say he's in a Hampton Inn because he's notoriously known for being cheap. Notoriously known for being extremely, extremely cheap. Yes, he's very known for that.
There's got to be like a Holiday Inn Express that's in the middle.
It wasn't as cheap as the Hampton Inn. He wanted to go cheaper, so he went to the Hampton Inn.
Yeah, that was on the outskirts of the city.
Yeah, so the whole story is just bizarre. And then it happening back to back with this like car blowing up in his face and him catching on fire, and like something's going on with this. First of all, he's 74 years old. I don't care if it's a bunny hill. You shouldn't be walking down it. You're 74 years old.
How it didn't kill him is more.
Well, that's why a lot of
either.
people are having this now. The funny, well, not funny. The comical part of this is there's all the conspiracy theories of who wanted him dead, who did he cross up, like where was he actually? Because like how he's not. He said first of all he said fell 60 feet and hit his head on a rock. Like,
yeah.
60 feet,
and
that's a pitcher's mound to home plate. That's pitcher's mound to home plate. He fell that far and hit his head on a rock.
And he's joking about it. Like, he's joking about it with this interviewer. And the best is he lifts up his eye patch.
That is the best part of it.
Is he like just lifts his eye patch up, and you're just like, oh my god!
It's shocking. You're like, oh my god, he really.
It's
ballooned. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I've been.
How he's walking around too, like how TMZ caught him while he's just like heading in somewhere.
But that's okay,
dude. You should.
That's the other part of the theory is like, why would he be walking around? Because he wanted someone to catch him walking around. The theories are crazy. Go look up the theories on your. We're not going to go through all the theories because that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole other podcast. Go ahead.
My theory is he has some dirt on Diddy.
Oh man, that could be. It could be. He's a Hollywood elite.
He may have some dirt on some.
He's a Hollywood elite. It could definitely be that, but it's bizarre. Go look up the theories. I've been teasing Matt about this all day, and I knew it would pay off. I'm so glad it paid off.
It is just so amazing how that man is still just walking around, and in the way I think he's walking around going, "You didn't get me.
Here I am. You didn't get me.
You didn't get me. You blew my car up and you pushed me down a hill, and I'm still standing."
So me personally, obviously, I don't want him to die or get hurt. I don't know about you. I am not a big Leno fan. I've never been a big Leno fan. I'm a huge Conan guy. I've always been a big Conan guy.
Thank you.
Yes, I've always been a big Conan guy. As people may know that listen to Mad Props, like the biggest influence of Mad Props was Conan's podcast. Conan Needs a Friend. It's like the same kind of concept I'm trying to do with my stuff. So like, I'm a big Conan guy. Obviously, I'm like, well, I want him to fall down a hill and bust his head open. Like, no, I wasn't in Pittsburgh or anything like that. But I knew you get a kick out of this.
Like, I just, that's so great. Like, I think it's amazing that man's still walking around, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, now he just fell down a hill.
I think both shoes dropped. It's about 60 feet.
Yeah. But what is next for Jay Leno? What else is he going to survive? Like, is he going to be like, look, guys, I want to go skydiving, and his chute doesn't open, but he somehow survives.
I was skiing, and the lines just broke while I was on the lift. got stuck in one of the trees. I'm here. I'm good. It's just a tree. Who cares?
I'm okay. I was stuck in a tree that was 100 feet tall.
I'm still good. I'm still good.
Standing here. Shattered
both my legs. I can still walk. I mean, as you can see. You want me to pull up the cast so you can see the legs? You can check them out. So anyway, I knew you'd get a kick out of that, and I've been teasing it all day. But this is why I couldn't tell you, right? If I would have told you, it would not have been as good. I had to wait for this moment to bring that up and tell you. But you wanted to. You wanted to shoot some Marvel updates at me. So what you got for me?
Yes, I did, because as you know, we're gearing up for the new phase of Marvel. Yep. You know, we have Captain America: Brave New World, which I'm kind of about, but I'll go see it anyway. Because they get me every time.
I mean, people watching can see I'm wearing a Gwen Stacy jersey right now.
I am excited for the Thunderbolts. And what I hear is the Thunderbolts is going to heavily lean into Avengers Doom, because they're going to be one of the teams that's pretty at the forefront of that movie. And then what I hear also is leading into everything is we're going to get a new huge character in Doomed, and it sounds like it's going to be Molecule Man, which I'm very excited for. I think that's one of the best characters in Marvel is Molecule Man. Only since like what I've read of Marvel and of Molecule Man, he is so powerful, but like he he's always kept in a bubble. This guy, like he's always being used, or he's always just that guy who's one of the most powerful beings in the universe, but he's always just being
Where
manipulated
are
and
we?
used. And
Where
what do
have
you
we
mean?
gone? Where we're like,
I know,
listen,
I know.
Molecule Man's coming. I'm so excited. I'm like,
Yeah,
where is Marvel gone? Where they have to pull these characters, which comic book lovers will like, but they have to
yeah,
pull these characters. Like, let me give you a very, maybe it's a common opinion, maybe it's a hot take. They have not shown me anything yet where I've gone, I cannot wait. I don't know, but I haven't
yeah.
seen a
Me
single
neither.
thing where I'm like, I cannot wait. And when you talk to, you're a big comic book. I like comic books too. Don't get me wrong, and I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. But you're definitely way beyond me with comics. You know way more about comics than
Yeah,
I know at all. So somebody like that is exciting to you. But if you're trying to tell somebody that doesn't read all the comics, rumor is Molecule Man's going to be there, and I don't know who Molecule Man is. I'm like, Molecule Man. What the hell do I care?
yeah. And being a guy who's not really a Marvel reader and is hyped about it, that means that's
Yeah.
pretty big.
No, I'm sure it
You know,
is.
like
I'm
that's pretty big, and that's exciting for me. But like you're
Why
saying,
do we have to do it?
like I'm
That's what I'm
still
trying to say.
not.
Why do we have to do it?
Well,
Why can't we just
what you
restart?
have to understand. Well, this will
It
be a
better be.
restart, like because of Secret
Yeah.
Wars, like and Malcolm Man has a big part in the more recent
Not
Secret Wars
not
with
the original
Doctor Doom
one.
and
You're
everything.
talking about the okay.
Not the original one. Yeah. And he has a big role in it, so it makes sense why they're putting him in there and how they're going to restart this. I am proud of what's coming out from Marvel with all these movies coming out, that they they haven't like gone and thrown out like, what are the big teams and what they're going to be doing is Fantastic Four. They're leaving Fantastic Four alone.
That's
That movie's going to come out
I'm
and it's just
excited
going to
about
be
that.
its
I like
own
the
thing.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and I like how they're just keeping it away and we don't know how they'll come into the fold, because I like that. Because also it's a period piece, so it's in the '60s. So I don't know how they
Well,
would
they
pull
could bring
into
Cap back for
modern
that one
times.
if they
Yeah,
really wanted
the
to.
one thing they were kind of, I didn't really listen to it, but I know there's a lot of updates coming out about Spider-Man 4, and at this point, what has transpired in the Spider-Man set of movies, I honestly, and this may hurt you, I don't care.
I know.
I like Tom Holland as Spider Man. Like I like seeing him on screen as Spider Man, playing Peter Parker and all that. But I honestly don't give a shit
I
about
know
Spider Man
that's
Four.
so the only thing that could be exciting about Spider-Man 4 is it looks like they're actually going to lean into what Spider-Man is, but as much as I enjoyed watching the movies and I do think Tom Holland plays a good Spider-Man, the direction they actually took that Spider-Man in is not my favorite because it's just Iron Man Jr., which is just very
Yeah,
far from,
exactly.
but you get blinded at the time, especially with all the Spider-Man that was coming out, and I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. Like that is I like I have probably read as many Spider-Man comics as half as many regular comics you've read. Like I've read the
Yeah,
entire Spider-Man from front to back. I mean, I'm behind on like maybe from 2017 or so, but like you're talking 1962 to 2017. I've read basically every single one in that series, all the spin-offs, everything.
hmm,
Like that's my favorite superhero. So like, but don't I know you're saying like they're gonna reset and stuff like that. I think we talked a little bit about it last week with the superheroes versus superhero movies overtaken by video game movies. Which, if you haven't gone and listened to that, go ahead and go back an episode, then come on back here and go listen
yeah.
to that
Please
because
do.
it was a
It was a
good
good
one.
one.
It was a
It was a
good.
good one.
But the just after the series, like comic books can do a series, then just end it. We should have just started doing that with
Yeah,
the movies. Like just end it, whole new cast. Like listen, I like Tom Holland as Spider Man. I like I
and give us a
like
breather
Benedict
too. Like
Cumberbatch.
give us a
Yeah,
nice
give us a
breather.
breather. Give us a little bit off. We don't need it to continue. Because now that the big stories, this is the problem. The big story ended, right? We were invested. We saw
Hmm.
it end. We saw the characters we like. They're gone, and it's over. Like now they're trying to now we have to reinvest in things, but they're just continuing a story that we've already concluded in our minds while also trying to reinvest. It's like, who still watches General Hospital, right? Like it
Yeah,
just keeps going and going and
exactly.
going. Something we're going to talk about in the future, The Simpsons. Like, who still really watches The Simpsons? Not a lot of people, because the stories we saw were concluded. A lot of people talk about how SpongeBob is bad after season 4. Starts going downhill. It's not bad after season 4 by no means, but it starts going downhill after season 4 because the movie was supposed to be the conclusion. Like, when you get to that conclusion, you kind of just move on. But these Marvel's just trying to get you to reinvest in these characters that you've never heard of, unless you're a diehard fan or you read comics. And it's you're going to your
Yeah,
audience. I get it, but it just doesn't. You still need big hitters.
yeah, it doesn't
You
have the
still
same
need big
effect. It
hitters.
just doesn't have the same effect, and it's one of those things where, look, I'm happy that we get Doctor Doom. We're getting the Fantastic Four. I think the Thunderbolts is going to be a lot of fun. You know, it's their Suicide Squad. But again, like you said, let's just restart. Give us a break. Like we know that they finally have the rights to X-Men, so they're going to bring all the
Yeah.
X-Men in. Like, give us a couple of years before you do that.
Well, they kind of are now, right?
And
Like they got the rights 2 years
yeah,
ago.
but it's gonna come. It's gonna come a lot faster than I think everybody.
I think so too.
Because we're gonna get a lot of this stuff in, and then they're gonna give us like a year year or two, and then we're gonna see the first tricklings of X-Men stuff, mutant stuff at least. And it's just it's draining after a while. But like again, they get me every time.
Same.
You know,
I'm gonna go watch it.
and go
Although I
see
have been doing
Yeah.
better of like, if I truly don't have an interest, I don't go watch it. Like the shows, especially. I still haven't seen Secret Wars, or not Secret Wars. Secret Invasion. Still have not seen it.
Totally skip.
Yeah,
Skip.
I had no interest from the
Skip.
beginning. No interest from the beginning of seeing that. And there are things in the movies people are like, "Oh, that happened in Secret Invasion." I'm like, I'll never know. I'll never know.
Yeah.
I'll never know.
Like that whole storyline with the Captain Marvel stuff was just horribly done. Like it was just like I still haven't seen the newer Captain Marvel where like I guess they rope Secret Invasion back into it. I still have no, and I can easily just go watch it right now because it's on Disney Plus. But I still have
did
no
see the new Captain Marvel.
drive to go see it.
I wouldn't know if it tied together. The thing it did tie together was Nick Fury in space. That's all I remember is the tie together.
I just don't give a shit about Nick Fury.
It was fine. It was
like,
fine. I mean, yeah. Well, when they said he's not even on planet, and now you're like, so was half the things that happened even like it just makes no sense. And
it doesn't make any sense because you're just so far away from the character now. It's like Nick Fury. I know Nick Fury. He's the dude who just sits on a helicarrier that's invisible and is floating
not even
around
that.
it.
He's
Like,
he's in space
like,
somewhere doing God knows what.
And now he's in space and he's like he's doing stuff. Like spoilers, he married a Skrull
In Secret Invasion.
And that's what you find out during Secret Invasion.
Sick.
And you're like, cool.
So
that's great. Like,
in Spider-Man No Way Home, you find out he is. So what's the difference? What's the difference there?
Yeah, and that No Way Home was so hyped up with having the other Spider-Man in it.
Wait,
that
not No Way Home. Far
me.
From Home, you find out he's a Skrull. Far from home.
Oh yeah,
something with home. They all have home.
Yeah, whatever. They all have home in it. But the last
No Way Home.
The other Spider-Man, like No Way Home, was great because of the Andrew and Toby cameos. Like, just love those guys as Spider-Man. You know, they were great. Andrew's Spider-Man was cut short because I love the Amazing Spider-Mans. But that ending still fucking bugs me. Of them forgetting him and not knowing who Spider-Man is.
That's why I don't mind it, because I feel like they're trying to reset the universe. But I don't know. What?
Yeah,
just reset the whole goddamn thing.
Me,
just
so
reset it from scratch.
And every time they drop fucking Doctor Strange into something, it gets dumber and dumber because they don't know how to put Doctor Strange on
Yeah, I
screen.
mean, the first
Like,
Doctor Strange movie, I liked it so much. I started to read the
was
comics.
good.
Yeah,
Was good. Like, it was legit
yeah,
Doctor Strange. Like, that was great. But then they plopped him in every little
everything.
thing.
Well,
They force fed
I
him
can tell
to
you
us
why.
for
No, I could
so
tell you why.
long.
Because
And it's like,
their
I don't.
original idea was 100% to make him the new leader of the Avengers, which does happen in some of the comics because they didn't have the rights to Spider-Man just yet. So that was the direction they
Yeah.
were definitely going in. And even when they do get Spider-Man in Infinity War and stuff like that, you could see like he's kind of taking that leadership role, right? Like even at the end, he's taking that
Yep.
leadership role. That was definitely the direction they were thinking of going in. And then they get Spider-Man. It's like, well, we're not going to not lead with him. But then the guy you got for Spider-Man doesn't really want to be him anymore, which I understand, man. Tom Holland's a stage actor, right? Like he wants to be in
Hmm.
different productions. He doesn't want to be in the same thing for the rest of his life, unlike some of these other guys.
He's about to be in a new Nolan movie. He may win an
Yeah,
Oscar.
yeah.
Okay? That's what happens. You go into a Nolan movie, you may win an
Yeah.
Oscar.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Speaking of things from Disney and that are disappointing, there's been some new live action stuff going on. So I want you to tell us a little bit about the Lilo and Stitch live action preview that they gave us, and what you think about it.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I get it. I get it. Like Lilo and Stitch, I like the
Yeah, it
movie
was
when it
good.
came out. Like, I thought it was fun. It was good. He was cute. Reminded
Is
me of my
is is
dog.
that
Like,
is
if my
that
dog
their
could talk.
last like successful 2D movie that you can think of? It was that and the Emperor's New Groove were at the same time. Emperor's New Groove's a year before. Leo and Stitch is way more successful than Emperor's New Groove, but what is the
Yeah.
next?
Which is crazy because Emperor's New Groove
But
is
it's
fucking
such a
hilarious.
cult
I
following.
think
It's
that's so
such a
funny.
cult following.
Oh
Lilo
yeah.
and Stitch had like commercial
Uh,
success.
yeah. I would say
2D.
so. I can't remember what was coming out
That's
like
2002.
at
That's
that
2000.
time.
I know
It was
it's 2002
2002.
because they had to change that scene of the spaceship in the plane because of 9/11. So it's
Oh yeah,
2002.
yeah. I didn't even remember that. Wow. Yeah, I can't really think.
I think that is.
Someone help
While you
us.
keep
Someone
you
help
tell
us
us a
and,
little
and
bit
think about
about
it.
the remake, I'll look and see what their 2D animation is.
So it starts off, of course, because Disney's all about showing us Hawaii now because we're getting the Moanas and now we're getting Lilo and Stitch, and you just have Stitch running through this sand, destroying sandcastles. Which I will say the first shot is a sandcastle that is the Disney castle, which is pretty cool. Like
Yeah, I
it's like
saw
a
that. It
real
was a
built.
remake of Stitch going through the house with the toys like he's the monster. Yeah.
Yeah, and acting like
Yeah.
Godzilla pretty much and destroying everything. Um, the animation looks good for Stitch. I think he looks really good. But my whole thing is like, why did we need this? Like, this is 100% a cash grab. Um, Nostalgic people are going to go see it. People, you said this came out in 2002. At this point, people will be taking their children to go see this when they saw it as children. So they're gonna pass this down. But again, and Sketching Up has talked about this. Like, do we really need these animated movies turned into live action when it's like, uh, I don't I don't see the appeal anymore. Like, why don't we have new creative live action stories from Disney coming out? And it's not just Disney. Like, I saw the teaser or the trailer for How to Train Your Dragon
Yeah.
live action. And I feel like How to Train Your Dragon came out way more recently. The animated
So
movie came out way more recently than Stitch. And it's like, okay, why did we need
let's
this
double
right
down
away?
on that.
You
Let's
know?
double down on that. Moana
Yeah.
2 is coming out.
And
They're already in
yes.
production for a live action Moana.
Yes, because what's
The
his name
Rock is going to
like
be in it,
producing.
and he's going to reprise.
Yeah.
I think they're all actually reprising their roles, but they're just going to do Moana live action. They're already doing two, like in animated form. By the way, the Princess and the Frog 2009, the last 2D Disney movie to come out. There hasn't been
Wow,
one since. So this was not the
that's
last one.
insane to me.
We've had podcasts about this in the past, about this live action Disney. I am so against it. It's just a cash grab. I remember watching The Lion King and just being like, what the hell was this? We did an entire episode talking about the Lion King and breaking it down and stuff like that. The funniest scene is when Nala is like running to save somebody, and there's a Beyonce song singing in the background, and it's just like, is she singing to herself? Is like Beyonce also in this world? Like, what is the context here? Like, I don't get it. Like, is she singing to herself? Is it a song she's singing for
Is her
this? Like,
face in the
yeah, what is?
clouds
She's
singing?
running. Like, I don't see her lips moving, but that's definitely her talking. It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, that's why they got Beyonce in the first place, right? They wanted an original song by Beyonce, so that makes sense. And she's like, "Well, it's got to be in the movie."
Yeah,
Anyway, they're just cash
I know.
grabs. They're just nostalgic cash grabs and stuff like that. It's the same reason that there's a Toy Story 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the same reason they're restarting Shrek again. It's the people that are going to see the movies are us. It's our age now, right? And they think that they could just throw something from our childhood because everything in our age group is nostalgic. Like, it's not the
Yeah,
same as in the 90s when things had to be newer, and like even when they're newer they're kind of the same, right? Sci-fi or this, like they're very still ET, Back to the Future, Star Wars, all in the same type of era, and then you get this blockbuster stuff with animals, Jaws, Animal Jace, Jurassic Park. They're kind of all the same theme park type movies, like as some directors like to say, things like that, where
yeah.
you want to go see it for. It's not nostalgia, but it's that sense of familiarity with a new movie. Well, they don't have that sense of familiarity. They don't try to get that sense of familiarity anymore because you could just say, "Here's a movie you already know, but it's a little different this time." And people will go do it. They
Yeah.
wouldn't keep doing it if it didn't make money. Just remember that. They would not keep doing it if it did not make money.
Oh, of course not. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If it makes money, it's gonna
And they
go. It's gonna
must.
keep going. It's gonna keep going until it doesn't. And it's just sad because you know there's a lot of creative people at these big studios. You know there's great writers, and people over there, producers who are there, but I think these big studios, they always have final say. So they're just going to be like, no, no, no. And that's why I believe why like A24 and Neon, these other small studios are doing so well because they're just such creative.
A24 isn't even small anymore. That is major now, just because they've had so many
Yeah, it's
hits.
major, but comparatively, it
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
smaller
yeah, yeah,
studio.
yeah.
It's not
Notoriety, I'm saying,
it
like they're major now. They've
yeah,
hit after
notoriety,
hit.
yeah. And I think after this Oscar year, because I just saw Enola, the new Neon. It was at the
Yep.
film festival, um, and my girlfriend and I saw it, and I thought it was very good. It balanced this like very serious story with a lot of slapstick humor, and it was very good. But you see, like it's funny. We went and saw, what did we go and see? Oh, we saw the SNL movie a while back. We saw Saturday Night, which is about the first SNL episode
Okay.
ever, and it's like in the view of Lorne Michaels, like how he put it all together and what was going on in the background. And the previews before that movie, comparatively to Enola, because it was all like these big budget movies. Like they had the Craven trailer was
Hmm.
there, and it was like, oh, okay, like kind of looks cool. And it's gonna be a very gory movie, but whatever. Then when we went to see Enola for Neon, there was a lot of different things in there that were really deep and really good. That like Neon's doing a movie, which I think is super creative because I'm a huge horror fan, and I don't know if anybody else is, but there's a movie that's coming out that's in the view of the paranormal entity that's haunting the house, which is a very interesting concept to try to tackle in a
Yeah.
movie. And I think we do, like these big studios don't take risks like that.
No. Well,
They
it's
just
tough to
don't.
take a
They don't
risk when
take
you can
risks
lose
like that.
money. Like that's the problem. That's
Yeah.
that's always been the problem. By the way, by the way, a little secret about the Lauren Michaels movie or the Bob Dylan movie or the Elvis movie. They're just hitting on that same nostalgia as The Lion King and
Oh
Lilo and
yeah,
Stitch and all that other stuff. It's just a different nostalgia. People still fall for it. Listen, I've seen the biopics. I like documentaries much better than biopics because biopics
yeah, me
usually
too.
aren't that true.
It depends. It depends on like the content that the biopic's
Yes,
about.
but
Because I think the biopic about Saturday Night Live, the first show, was good because it's supposed to be about a comedy
yeah,
show, and it is comedic about
I'm
what's
sure.
going on in the
I'm sure.
background.
It's probably in the same
Like that was
vein
good.
as the one about the Har was it the Lamp National Lampoon? What
National
you know
Lampoons,
which
yeah,
one I'm
yeah,
talking about? The guy I don't
yeah,
even remember what it's called. Very good movie, by the way. Really good movie. Who's
yeah,
the Forte? Will,
yeah.
no,
Matt
Will
Forte,
Forte. Matt Forte
Will
is the
Forte.
Bears running back. I almost made the same mistake. I almost made the same mistake there.
Oh my
I
god!
almost said Matt Forte as well. It's
Hold
Will
on.
Forte, and he plays a stupid little something. It's called something like that. Um, we'll find out in about 2 seconds. But he's the guy that created the National Lampoon or something like that. He did the Harvard
Yeah,
Lampoon, and he got kicked off of that, so he made the National Lampoon, which a lot of people may or may not know.
it's called a futile and
I
stupid
was I was
gesture.
almost there. I was almost there. But it's Will Forte. I
Yeah,
do know
this
that.
was
It
a
was a
very
very
good
good movie.
movie. Will Forte, yeah,
Netflix. It's a Netflix movie. Definitely check it out
yeah,
if you want to watch a funny but sad, but also very entertaining movie. All I'm trying to say is I imagine that the Saturday Night movie is in the same vein as this movie, right? Like it's funny,
yes,
maybe not completely
yes. It's
historically
funny.
accurate, but like gives you enough of a background to where you can understand what's happening, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it all goes. And I said it to my friends after we saw the movie. I credit the actors that they casted for these huge roles. Someone playing Dan Aykroyd
Yeah.
is like that's a legend. That is an
Well, that
absolute
that was
legend.
that was
Someone
the best part about the movie we were just
Jim
talking
Belushi.
about is they had those
Yeah,
big parts,
and
but remember they said nobody's gonna look like their parts or something like that because of memory or like they made it so they could get these people that would be really funny in these moments and said like, oh well, they're not gonna look like it because my memory's hazy. I don't remember what they said, but like they made it a point that like
yeah,
Will
like
Ferrell may be playing, you know, Dan Aykroyd, and he doesn't look anything like him or sound anything like him, but like it puts in your head like that is Dan Aykroyd, and like still, I don't know, good movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out, kind of
yeah,
thing. Like,
yeah. So I'd say the same thing with the Saturday Night movie. It was good because the actors did their jobs as the people that they were playing, and they didn't overplay them. Like they weren't. They were definitely because again, I think people who go see it may think about Dan Aykroyd or like Jim Belushi or
Eddie
these
Murphy,
other characters that were no, Eddie Murphy wasn't on
he
the
was
first
just the
cast.
most important in the '80s. I guess the '70s is when it started,
Yeah,
though, right? '77
it started in the
was it
'70s. Yeah,
'77 or '73?
so
Oh,
I can't
I
remember.
thought they said
Um,
maybe.
but the whole thing is that they play their characters to a T because at that time they were really young
Yeah,
people. Like they were in their late 20s, early 30s, and it was just a time of debauchery pretty much for them. They were just trying to make their way comedically, and so it had a very good pace to it. That's why. It kind of reminded me. Did you ever see Birdman with
I
Michael
did.
Keaton?
Very good movie.
Where like the shot just keeps
Yeah,
going. Like there's no real
it's a single
cutscenes.
shot movie. It's
It's a
so good.
single shot. Yeah, that's what Saturday Night did, which was really good because there's so much that happens before that show airs. Even today, so much happens before they put that
Yeah.
on the air. So it was good in that because it kept the pace of it. So
Today
it
there's
was
a lot
good.
of
So I
politics they
think
have to
like
go through to make sure an episode goes right. They have to go through all the
oh
politics,
yeah.
make sure they get all the politicians right and get all the jokes ready for whoever said that. It's so funny to look back at some of those SNLs and they still have their moments today, but man, all the ones you see now, it's Trump or Harris or this politician, that politician, and it's
No,
tough.
I'll be the first one to say like we watch SNL, my girlfriend and I. It is is maybe one or two
Yeah,
skits
that's
that
what I
make me
mean.
laugh.
Like it's come a long way
It's
because,
just
and this we can move on after this, but it's Bo Burnham, who's one of my favorite comedians of all time. I'm a huge Bo Burnham fan. If we flip this whole thing around, I have a signed CD of Bo Burnham hanging on my wall. Love him, love him.
nice.
Bo Burnham had a rant once about viral videos, and he talked about Jimmy Fallon, and he said viral videos used to be you put something up and everyone enjoyed it. So it got a lot of views. It got a lot of, whatever. It got a lot of traction because everybody loved it. But then
Yep.
businesses took over the viral industry. And now a TV show that averages 6 million viewers a night is putting something on YouTube and getting 50 million views in a day. And we're calling that a viral video. They're not viral, they're already known. Like a viral,
Yeah.
when you go viral, it means you are someone that is necessarily unknown or practically unknown or unknown, and you put something out and now people kind of know who you are because of how much they enjoyed your video. But if you think of all the viral videos now, it's someone that's already very big, it's somebody that's already in business, or it's a sponsored thing. It's all this stuff. And it's just such a good quote about the virality of videos and what the direction they're really going in. It's just big businesses making things bigger by putting it on big platforms and kind of interrupting the whole algorithm, as people like to say, of everything. People think that they could just
Yeah.
become big on the internet now, and it's funny how many people think they could just be internet famous. It really is to me.
Yeah.
Completely off
You're right.
topic, but
And they're just trying. And yeah, it's completely off topic, but like
it's
you're
really
very
sad to
it's
talk to, you know, I've worked with a lot of interns, not just the ones I have now. In the last couple of years, I've worked with a lot of interns in sports and stuff like that, and it's very sad to ask them like, "What do you want to do, like as a profession?" And they're like, I just want to be famous." Doing what? I don't know. I'll do something on social media, and it's just like that's not a career path. It's really not. If you said I want to be famous, oh, doing what? Well, I have a really good voice and I've been singing since I was 10. Okay,
or I'm a
or
good
I'm a good
writer, or I'm
writer,
a
or
really good
I've been
writer and I want to
acting,
write a show.
like I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do stuff on social media and hopefully it picks up. It's just like, I know you see people and you think like, man, they're huge, but you know what? It lasts 10 seconds and then it's gone. And I could just go
Yeah,
off on it.
it's these. Yeah, me too. Like I want to go off on streamers so much, like, but I'm gonna hold
Yeah,
that back.
streamers are
Maybe
also
that'll be another
tough. I mean,
podcast. They're just so
yeah,
annoying. They're just
it's,
so annoying. I like just saw a recent stream of like I think I'm saying it right, Kai Siente,
yeah.
Kai.
Kai, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he's just hanging out with Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg's making him go through this trial of smoking like
I
20
don't know
joints
what
a
to
day.
make of that guy. Not Snoop Dogg. Well, Snoop Dogg now too,
Yeah, Snoop
apparently,
Dogg.
but I don't know what to make of
Well,
that guy
do whatever the
Kai.
hell he wants
I don't
now.
know what to make of
You
that guy
know?
Kai. Well, there he just got dissed by Kendrick Lamar, so it's kind of like
Who Snoop Dogg
yes,
did?
because he shared one of Drake's. He crowned Kendrick the king of, or the new, king of the West, and then immediately shared one of Drake's disses, saying how good it was towards Kendrick, and so he dissed him on this last album. But anyway, let's go back. That's another one for another podcast.
Oh my god, yeah.
I don't know what to make of the guy Kai. Like I see some stuff on him. I'm like, I appreciate that. And I see other stuff. I'm like, who finds this entertaining? Like, I just don't know. I
Exactly.
just don't know. Same. There's another one. I Show Speed.
Yeah, I Show
Don't know what to
Speed.
make of
Yeah, the
him.
guy who got kicked off of YouTube because he jumped a car or something, and that's against
Yeah,
their
yeah.
rules.
Well,
Like,
he's
I
he's
found
going
that
into the
hilarious. Like,
qualifiers for the Olympics now. I mean,
yeah, I know. He's actually been training to
yeah.
be a
I mean, we
sprinter.
we,
It's
we
like,
talked about this with Jake Paul. Like, he was a streamer. That's what he did. I guess, right? He did YouTube videos. You streaming a
yeah,
Jace, and now he's a boxer. I don't know what to make with some of these people, but it's the same thing.
it's
That
just
no, the
it's
one
sleazy.
you're missing though, and it was with that guy Kai. There was a girl. You missed it by one post probably because the Snoop Dogg thing happened
Okay.
right after. There was this girl that has been streaming for 3 straight years. 3 years. And that guy Kai and someone else were streaming and came across her stream and rated it and got her like 10,000 followers in a day or something like that. But
God,
it's not a good thing that she's been streaming for 3 years. It's also not a good
that's
thing to
definitely not helpful.
publicize it because now people think they could get famous by streaming for 3 straight years. So it's like not 3 straight years. Like, oh, I've been streaming every day. She's has not turned off the stream in 3 years. It was going straight for 3 years. Just not good. It's not good for society, man. This stuff isn't good. God, what would George Carlin say, man? Like, what? Where are we?
Dude, George Carlin would have a
field day,
field
day with today, man. It's
the best. I'm glad you brought that up because he was the first ever host of Saturday
was
Night
he
Live.
as he should be,
and he was. He was motherfucking everybody, and then in one of the scenes, he got lockjaw from doing too much coke.
Early days.
And they were like, "Fuck, he needs to do something." And Dan Aykroyd comes in, he goes, "Oh, I've had this done. This happens to me all the time. I'm just gonna loosen it up.
Now it's like you go watch SNL, and they're just trying to figure out who does the best Trump impression. First episode, they're talking about snorting coke and getting lockjaw. That's who does the best Trump impression. How far they've come. But we want to celebrate Black Friday before we go with a couple of Black Friday deals that industries have gotten and some busts that industries have gotten. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of really good deals for a lot of big, especially one in particular, but a lot of big entertainment throughout history. And
I don't think we talked about the one that was like we both agreed that was the best one.
We didn't talk about what we both agreed was the best one.
No, we just we talked about like what we wanted to say.
Deals
we wanted to do, but I don't think we both agreed.
Well, I think I said what I thought was the best one. Let's get into it and we can talk about which one we think is the best one. And I'm going to let you kick it off with whichever one you want to go with here.
I can go with
whichever one you want. I know.
And this is under Schnabel
Studios. I know, and that's my last name, not yours.
In a minute, it's going to be Tornetta in a minute. Okay, I want to do one, and I think you know what I want to do first because
the map.
It's me. Everything back here.
I see a mirror.
All right,
because it's you.
There is. It is me. My worst accusation is investing in myself.
Right there with you.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing is, let's go with the positives for DC Comics. DC Comics, not the DCU, not Warner Brothers, not the positives. And I think the big two positives in DC Comics like years was one big one was Charlton Comics that they acquired, which had Peacemaker, which had Blue Beetle, which had Captain Atom. And I think without getting those properties, we wouldn't have the Peacemaker show that was
it's good. One of my favorites.
Doing really well. Blue Beetle I thought was actually a pretty good movie for kind of a first ever showing of a character because he is young. He's one of those. So I enjoyed it. And it to a Latin guy, it was nice to see. Mm-hmm. You know, it was nice to see. But I also think with those, they wouldn't have expanded on those comics, which I love the comics of those characters, and they really took off when they hit DC. And then the other big one was Fawcett Comics, which gave us Shazam, which was Captain Marvel at the time, and they had all those problems with that. But Shazam is like one of my favorite DC characters.
Well, the first one is probably my favorite DC movie. It's probably my favorite one.
It's fun.
Yeah. It has the best scene in any superhero movie of all time. Do you know what scene I'm talking about? It's the best scene ever in any superhero movie. It's when they're flying and they stop and they're flying in the air and he's telling him the secret plot. And it goes back to Shazam. He's like, dude, we're like 10 miles away. I can't hear you. It's the best
Yeah,
scene
yeah,
in
yeah,
any
yeah.
superhero movie of all time because it's just so real and it's so funny. Like, if you like superheroes, you're like, that is hilarious. Because in every movie, in every comic, they'll be like miles
Everyone
away and
can hear
everyone
each
can hear
other.
each other. It's just so funny.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's the best scene ever.
I love that movie too because at the time I was living in
Hmm.
Philadelphia, so I was pretty much Leonardo DiCaprio watching that movie. Like every time I saw something that I've been to or I walk past every day, I was like, yep, yep,
There
yep,
it
yep.
is.
I know
There
exactly
it
where that
is.
is. Um, and a little funny tidbit about that movie, and it's really quick. So there's a scene where he goes and sees his
Hmm.
birth mother for the first time, and he goes into that apartment complex. So the building he walks into is not what they showed,
Yeah, I
like the
figured that
hallways
much. It never is.
of those, because I know where those buildings are, and each of those you can't rent those apartments. You have to buy them, and they're each a million
That
something a
makes
piece
sense.
because they're literally right next to your view is either the skyline of Philadelphia or the Schuylkill River and the art museum.
That makes so much sense.
Like you just have amazing views from that
Yeah.
apartment complex. It's the one of the most beautiful places. I only know that too because I had a friend whose dad lived there, and he invited us all
It's a
over
good
for
friend
dinner
to
one night
have.
when my parents were down there. Yeah, and we went, and they had balconies, and it was during the summer, so we got to sit outside, and it was just absolutely amazing view. And then like a year after I moved out, they like reconstructed that apartment building, and they put a rooftop bar at the top of
Yeah, they used the money from Shazam.
it. Yeah,
They used
pretty
the
much.
payments they got from them using the front door. So that's how they did it.
So yes, so that is my plus for DC Comics. My bust is when Warner bought
Yes.
DC. When Warner bought DC, it was a whole lot of
Well, it
problems.
wasn't when they
Like
bought DC.
they
It's what they did with DC after they bought them.
well no well yes, that and when they bought it, they had a lot of problems because when they officially bought it, they technically didn't have the rights to the big three. When they bought DC Comics, DC put it in like a stipulation in the fine print, whatever you want to call it. Like you need to pay us extra if you want to use Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. Like you need to pay us extra. And how you know that is if you watch the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman and you looked at the Batman emblem on the suit, it's different. It's not the correct one because they had the correct one in there, and DC said you have to pay us like a couple $1 million if you want to really use the real one, and they're like, we'll just edit it and
A
make it
different one. Yeah.
look different, and we can use it, and that's how they did it. Because then when you go to Batman Returns, it's the real one because they had the full rights to use
Isn't
that.
that
They
crazy?
just paid for it
Isn't
all
that
up front.
crazy?
Yep.
And then they fumbled
Hmm.
it.
There was also they wanted to make a Superman movie during the during the time they were filming the first Batman, and Warner Brothers and DC got into a huge fight, and this is not a lie, about the color of Superman's suit. And they weren't allowed to use that light. I think it's like a sky blue, which is the original color for Superman's suit. They weren't allowed to use it.
What about the underwear? Were they allowed to use the red underwear?
They didn't even get to
They,
the they
they
didn't even
didn't
get
get
to
to
the
the
red
underwear. They
underwear.
started the outerwear first,
They started
which is
outerwear,
actually what his underwear is.
and
It's
they
outerwear.
yeah, it's outerwear, and they didn't even get there, and they said, "Fuck it, we'll wait." And then
And they
they did.
waited until they made a new one and didn't do anything with that either. So,
Yeah, Superman Returns with
yeah,
Brandon
they didn't
Routh.
do anything with any other Superman. It's crazy how the what is it, 70s was oh man, why can't I remember? Christopher Reeves, right? 70s.
Yeah.
And
Oh, go watch the documentary
but
on
they
it. It's
haven't been
really
able
really
to
good.
do anything close to what they did then. Right? Like it's crazy
Nope.
to think how
Mm-mm.
they just can't get that one figured out. But they also fumbled it because the DCEU was just so
Yep.
unsuccessful and they lost so much money that they end up having to sell to Discovery. And now it's Warner Brothers Discovery, and they don't even have their own app anymore. They had to get rid of HBO Max, make it just Max, and now everything's on Discovery Plus. and it just kind of was a whirlwind of things. It also, I'm going to start with a negative because this ties right into it. It also led TNT in their biggest flop, their biggest bust of losing inside the NBA. I know we were going to save this for last, but it just fits so
Yeah.
well with what you're talking about because this whole thing led to them losing inside the NBA, which is just such a
So
bust.
I don't know too much about
Okay,
this. So you're gonna have to just take a little
I got you.
deep dive it for
So
me,
in
summarize it for me, because I know they have the TNT show with
yeah,
like
that's
Shaq
inside the
and all
NBA.
them. So they
So
lost
they
that.
lost it. They're renting it out to ESPN now. But what happened was because of the money they lost with DCU and not just DCU, there's a lot of bad decisions that they streaming was a big one. Streaming was lost a lot of people money.
Mhm.
Lost Disney alone $3 billion in one quarter, but it lost everybody a lot of money. And so when that happened, they didn't want to pay a lot for the NBA rights to return. So they played hardball with the NBA, and the NBA ended up selling the rights to other people. So now instead of being on TNT and ESPN and stuff like that, it's going to be on, I think, Amazon, NBC. No, not Amazon. I think it's NBC. NBC got the rights now with ESPN and all these other
Mm.
ones. Well, if you don't have the rights to the NBA, what are you going to do with inside the NBA? No one's going to turn over to TNT to watch them and then turn back to whatever channel they have to go to. So they rented out inside the NBA to ESPN. So they lost they lost the top only league they have, right? They only have the NBA on
Yep.
TNT,
They have
NHL and
NHL on
TNT. Well, now they
TNT.
have it, right? Because that's, and then now they're apparently a big player for UFC, which is just Turner. This is all just Turner. Turner has MLB and all
Yeah,
this
it's
stuff,
Turner.
but the biggest entity was the NBA sports wise, and they lost that. And their
Yeah.
biggest show, not sports wise, their biggest show was inside the NBA, and they now have lost that. It's on ESPN now. So all of this put together, I guess it's one big fumble, but I had it as a secondary fumble, and it kind of ties into because they lost so much money, sold off to Discovery, and couldn't afford to get stuff back that they ended up having to give away the rights of their most successful show of all time, which has been on TNT for 20 something years, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest fumble. Let's go with a more positive, and I'm going to go with the one I thought was the best one, the best doorbuster deal ever. I think when Disney officially bought Pixar was the best doorbuster deal because the
Yeah.
amount they paid for it would not be the amount they pay for it now.
Oh
They'd be
God,
paying way more. And if it wasn't for the movies of Pixar, which before they acquired them was like Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and stuff like that, and in the future, Monsters Inc. and Cars and all these other ones. These are all Pixar movies. If it's not for these movies, Disney does not do maybe some of these other deals that we'll talk about because they're not able to afford some of these other deals that we're going to talk about because that was when Pixar became a thing in the 90s. The Renaissance was over. Little Mermaid was 1989, which not a lot of people realize.
yeah.
Tarzan, some people remember fondly, but there's two big things about Tarzan. One, there was not an original song sang by the main characters, which is the first time in a
Yes.
Disney movie that's ever happened. And the second, although Phil Collins did it all and he did a decent job, he won an Oscar. But then
Yeah.
the other thing is that it was so unsuccessful for them that they actually sold the rights to the Tarzan story to another company because it just wasn't successful for them. And then we talked about a little off air, The Emperor's New Groove, which has a big cult following, but also didn't have a lot of success for them. But the movies that were raking in the cash were the Pixar movies, and they just outright buy the studio. And now they're just doing their dirty work by just taking the movies that are already great for them and just making twos and threes and fours and fives and six and seven and eight. And just all they're letting them do is sequels. But if it wasn't for those originals like Toy Story and even moving on to Inside Out, which is like 2016, that's how late they were going, where they were still pushing out bangers. It doesn't get to some of
Yeah.
these other great things that they've done. They still have a lot of money, but I think it would just be a different Disney. people do forget a lot about 90s Disney. They were not doing well. Disneyland, Euro Disney opened very unsuccessfully. They lost their
Yep.
CEO in a helicopter accident. What was his name? I don't remember his name. Not Kissinger, something like that. He died in a helicopter crash. Yeah, Henry Kissinger. Yeah, so I was like, no, it wasn't Henry Kissinger. It's something with it is something with a K though.
He's like, I'm making theme parks and I'm
And
winning
win
wars.
wars, making
That's
theme
what I'm doing.
parks, and
That's what America
crashing in
does, baby.
helicopters. No, but that's kind of changed everything, and then they went to a different direction. So that's why I think it's personally. That's why I think it's the best one that's ever happened.
Yeah. All right, then can I switch over to the worst acquisition that Disney did?
Of course.
In my opinion, is Lucasfilms.
All right, I want to hear that.
All right, so Lucasfilms, after the prequel movies, we didn't really hear from them for a while. George Lucas wasn't doing anything Star Wars. He was still pumping out Indiana Jones, and that's great. It's the same thing as Wolverine, the Hugh Jackman Wolverine. They're gonna make Harrison Ford do that until he's 50 years old. He may be over.
He's got to be in his 80s.
Yeah. Oh, he's in his 80s. Which is still amazing that he's now going to be the Red Hulk.
Let's be fair. How much of the Red Hulk is he actually going to be? How much is actually going to be him out there? Like, that's the real question.
Yeah. They weren't doing much, and I think George Lucas, and this is just speculation, he was bored, and he wanted to give Star Wars a spark, and Disney pitched him a good enough, ideas of what they want to do, and they were already doing at that time animated stuff. Like we had the animated Clone Wars show,
very successful,
which was amazing. Yeah, very
video
successful,
games,
and that was video games, and that was a lot on the back of what everybody is saying. Who is George Lucas's predecessor is Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is the next George Lucas for Star Wars. Like he's their bread and butter. And Jon Favreau was doing very well in Marvel when Disney bought them, and they are good friends. And Jon Favreau is a huge Star Wars nerd, like loves Star Wars, and he had the idea for The Mandalorian. Now, when they were doing the whole deal and everything, and there's a lot of speculation of how this contract was written out. That like the guys who run Lucasfilms are the final say. Disney isn't the final say. Lucasfilms is the final say of what they put out there. And what happened was when George signed it over, I think there was a kind of speculation that Dave Filoni would be the head of Lucasfilms, and it wasn't. It became some woman.
Yeah, the one that
she's now not it anymore, and it is Dave Filoni now.
But she was the one that started doing a lot of the stars. She was under Filoni, wasn't she? And she was like the predecessor, supposed to be the predecessor, and then they rised her up to the top, if I remember right.
Yeah, and so the one thing was good that came out of Disney and Lucasfilms was The Mandalorian, because they couldn't. Disney couldn't touch it. She couldn't touch it either. Like Dave Filoni said, I will make this with Jon Favreau, but it goes out how we see it, and that's why it was so good.
Not who I was thinking of. Kathleen Kennedy but she still is.
Yes, but the creative director was made Dave Filoni just recently, and I think he has more pull. Like he's going to be.
I don't know. She's the president and CEO of the company.
Yeah, but I think it's Dave Filoni. I think it technically has a little more power than she does.
Continue.
But what we got out of that was a very confused Star Wars. Like, where do we go next after the Skywalker saga? And they said, we're going to continue the Skywalker saga and we're going to end it with those three um, sequel movies. But they were all pretty, in my opinion, pretty bad. In the whole span of Star Wars, they were pretty bad, and it just did not come out right. And then, but the only saving grace was The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was doing really good. And then we got a couple standalone movies, which was like Rogue One, which was amazing. You know, they took a step away from the lightsabers and dark side, light side, and they went to more of the war that was going on that we remember. And then they wanted to bring back more lightsabers. They wanted to do all that. And with these sequel movies, they just didn't know where they were going. And now it seems like we're really never ending the Skywalker saga. It's just going to keep going. And
that's where I think the failing comes in is that sentence right there. I loved the original Star Wars. As a kid, I even loved the new ones. You know, I haven't seen them in a long time. The prequels. I haven't seen them in a long time.
Oh yeah, Revenge of the Sith is one of my
people. You know, some people love them, some people hate them. I can't give an opinion because I haven't seen them since I was a kid. I do remember loving them as a kid though, and I love the originals as a kid. I've seen Rogue One, but I haven't seen a lot. I haven't seen The Mandalorian and stuff like this. Where Star Wars has gone wrong, and then this is definitely on Disney because this is what Disney does. But where Star Wars has gone wrong is when you watch the prequels, when you watch the originals, and this is kind of where the prequels hit people the wrong way as well. But if you watch the prequels, you watch the originals, you watch all these little ones, when you give too much, we don't get the lore we create. You're telling us the lore now. Like it's better as a story than it is on screen sometimes. It's better made up in your head than it is given to you. And that's what they're doing with a lot of these prequels and these one-offs. And this is about the Death Star, the creation of it. And this is about this. And this is about this. It's like, leave some mystery to it. Leave some imagination to it. But if there's no imagination to the story, it's all built out in front of you. It just doesn't hit the same as when you actually have to create something yourself or think of something yourself or imagine something yourself, bring you to your own world inside this world that's given to you. And that's where I think Star Wars really went wrong. And that's why I think a lot of people are falling out of love with a lot of the stuff they're doing, personally.
Yeah, and I think you're right in one sense. It's like there needs to be more mystery. And the mystery in Star Wars is the Force and how it works. Dark side or light side, there needs to be some mystery to it. And we don't need a full explanation to that. With like building the Death Star and how the Empire rose, I think those are good stories to tell. That's why Rogue One was so successful, because it does something like
but we don't need it on screen. We don't need to see it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like the creation of the Death Star was more about the plans than it was actually building the whole thing. Like if the movie was about building it, it would have been so
That'd been hilarious.
It was the plans. Oh my god, yeah.
Just a guy on scaffolding out floating in space, like he's climbing scaffolding, hammering on the side.
You just see them.
Eddie, pass me up another beam, would you?
He's like, hey, you going to the union meeting tomorrow? We better get a longer lunch. And the whole time you just hear we better get a longer lunch.
Ting, ting, in the background. Like Death Star is built with metal and nails.
Did you see they wanted that droid team to build part of this? The union said no. The union said no. That's the man's working job.
I get my time off. I build when I build. It takes as long as it is. This is a empire governed job.
Yeah. So that's why it's good. And the same with the show Andor. Andor is about the rebellion, how the rebellion started, because it didn't start with Luke Skywalker. So when Luke Skywalker comes on the screen, the rebellion was already happening. So it's good to see how that all came together. And there's no force or anything. Where they're going wrong is like we just got that show, The Acolyte, which is about the early versions of the dark side and the Sith. They took away the mystery. So like one of the plot points was this girl was born without having a father. The same way Anakin Skywalker was born. But
And
we don't
Jesus.
know really how he was born because George Lucas says it. He is a Jesus figure, like he's the savior, and it's a miracle that he is born. And that's how he left it, and that's how we all knew. He somehow the Force created him, and he came about, and he was supposed to bring balance to the Force. In the Acolyte, they contradict that story. And it's like we didn't need a contradicting story to that. We didn't need to know about it. Like it another person in this world can be born through mystery. Like that's fine. But we don't need a full-on explanation. And we don't need a reason for it or rhyme or reason for it. And that's where that show failed. And a lot of dedicated Star Wars fans were so mad. And that's where Disney comes in and they're like, well, we need to put this on screen. We need to get this on screen. We need to see it on screen. It's like, no, we don't. We don't need to see that on
I,
screen. Like, it's so dumb to see it on screen.
all I took out of that is that Jesus was born with the Force. And that's why
Yeah,
he
that
could
would
walk
I
on
would have went
water.
to church a lot
You missed
more
it. You missed
if
it.
they
That's why
just
he can
told
walk
me
on
that
water. That's
Jesus
why he can
was
turn water into wine. That's why. What else did he do? He was a good carpenter. He built the Death
uh
Star.
he built the
He
Death
built the Death
Star.
Star.
He created I want to say he created the
Can I
lightsabers.
say something really off topic? But I just said carpenter, and it made me think of it. So Sabrina Carpenter, her
Yes.
aunt is Nancy Cartwright, the person that plays Bart Simpson. Did you know?
Oh, really?
I came across it today. I was like, wait, what? She was also.
Is that
It is true.
true?
It is 100% true. She also there's this vine of like this girl dancing, and her brother tries to pick her up, and she falls and falls onto the ground, and she's like an 8 or 9 year old girl. That's Sabrina Carpenter. It's like a huge
Oh,
viral
really?
vine years and years and years ago, and apparently that was also her. And she's been around a lot longer than people realize. But because I said Carpenter, it made me remember, like, oh yeah, Bart
Hmm.
Simpson is her aunt. Very
That's
strange.
weird.
Well, not
That's
really.
cool.
That always happens, doesn't it?
It's not
It
strange.
doesn't
I
that
mean,
always happen.
someone
You
has
always look
someone.
into it
Yeah.
later, and you're like, oh, this guy's related to Robert De Niro. Like what? Of course they
Yeah,
made it
yeah, yeah.
famous. They have a famous person in their family. They just didn't know about because their last name is Thompson and not De Niro.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah,
no
yeah.
sense. Anyway, Lucasfilms going to Disney got a
Yep.
little
Is a
oversaturated,
dud.
made it a dud. We have
Um,
some others.
but I think we should talk about the whole, if you want to, the acquisition of a lot of the characters that Sony
Yeah,
has,
so
because that's a fail.
let's wrap with that. Let's wrap with that because I think
Yeah,
that's a plus and a minus. It's a fail because of what they're doing with these villains and they're making it really bad. It's a plus because they make a boatload of money with Spider-Man. Boatload. Because they own everything outside the comics that is Spider-Man, maybe outside merchandising. I don't know if they own the merchandising. I wouldn't be surprised. Also, wouldn't be surprised if it's Disney because there's so much Spider-Man merch out there these days. But video games,
yeah.
on-screen movies. I don't know about TV. We'd have to look that one up because I believe I watched not the amazing Spectacular Spider-Man. That's on Disney. So I don't know about the on screen like that. But before it was on Disney, there was a couple animated ones. There's a very big animated one from the 90s. Sony owns all that. So they make a lot of money off that. But then they also are trying to create this weird universe where all these villains exist without the thing that brings them all together in the first place. I don't know how they're going to try to do that one because it just doesn't make any sense. I do remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was after Spider-Man 3, they were talking about making Tom Holland's Spider-Man transport back to the Sony universe. And they were just going to continue his story in the Sony universe. And Tom Holland said, I'd quit tomorrow if you did that. Like, because he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do
So
it for Disney.
they made Tom Hardy do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, he
Remember at the
comes.
end,
Yeah, yeah, he goes in
he goes there and then he
and
goes
he goes
back.
back.
It's like, oh, cool.
That was the
That was cool.
biggest like they acted like Venom's gonna be in the movie, and he's like, he's literally a footnote. Like, it's not even a thing. It's just so
He
stupid.
was an after credit
Yeah, it's
scene.
so dumb because it was in the credit, but it was in the credit of Venom 2. So everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's going to
Yeah,
be in the movie." And then post credit, that
nothing
post
happened.
credits can be its own podcast. The way
Oh, I
they
think
kind of
that
ruin
really needs to
movies.
be an episode. That 100%
It
needs to
kind
be an
of
episode.
ruined movies, and it ruined movie going. The only good thing it does is it makes you stay there and look at the names go across the screen at 10,000 miles an hour, like you can read them anyway. But
Yeah, you get everybody gets
yeah,
their
everybody
credit.
gets their credit. Everybody, the credit is there. It may be fast. You may have to pause, even though you can't do that in the theater, but it's there. Trust me. I do remember seeing someone that worked on the movie that I knew. I can't remember what movie it was.
I was just gonna say on Spider-Man the third one, because there was an after credit scene. I texted my buddy. I was like, "Oh, I'm actually gonna see your name because he was a grip
Yeah,
on
that's
one of
fun.
the, and he
That's
does like
fun.
the." And I was like, "Oh, that's my buddy Nate.
Yeah.
He's up there." So
Nate,
shout out to Nate.
I took a picture with live on my phone, so we can go back and find it at the 10,000 miles an hour. It basically takes
Yeah,
a short video, and then you can select the screen. Maybe a little blurry, but then we'll be able to find you. But
yeah. He goes because his dad is like the head of the grips, so his dad's name is bigger
yeah,
than his, and he's like, "I can't wait till that after
I'm the
credits."
head of the grips.
I'm
I
gonna be
run
head
the
of the grips.
grips around here. All right.
Hey, he's the head of the union too. He's head of the, I think it's the local 47 out
Out
of
of
the
the Bronx.
Bronx.
I run this show out here, son. One day this will all be yours. One
Yeah,
day
and
you can.
you could tell those actors they ain't stepping on set until you say
Yeah,
so. That's that you make them your bitch.
we have a grip on the grips. And I think that's a good place to end right there. That's a good
Yeah,
place.
yeah, for
So,
sure. I will say this just to end with this. When I said I saw the Craven trailer in theaters, they almost got me. They almost got me.
how?
I was like, oh, I, the I like the actor. I forget the actor's name who's playing
Yeah.
Craven. I like him. I like him. And the way that they did it was like this. They didn't really talk about like him being a Marvel character. It was just this dude who's going after people who work for his father, and it was just it was more of an action, like very gory
I
action
can't wait
movie.
for
And
you
I
to
was like,
go get sucked
all
in,
right.
go see it, come back and be like, yep, exactly what we thought. Exactly.
Well, no, my gear is going to be. Is it better than
Well, that's
Madam Web or
oh
Morbius,
that yeah.
or is it in
Is it
between those
better?
two?
Is it better than a 1 or a -1? Is it a
Yeah, that's what
1.1?
it
Then
is.
it's a success. It's like
It's a
that's
success,
again
baby.
could be another podcast about aiming the bar so low on the first try that you get sucked in with the second try, being like, the second movie wasn't bad. Yeah, well, the first movie
Yeah, it's not
sucked.
bad.
Of course, the second movie was good.
The second movie really
It really opened my
eyes.
eyes to the first one I'd say was a solid 2. This one was probably a 5. Next one should be an 8. Gotta go see the third one. It's gonna be better. It just keeps going up.
Yeah.
It's trending up. Awful.
I did see a funny meme where it was like, "This is criminally insane. You're charging this price," and it was a Blu-ray copy of Madam Web, and it was $30.
Yeah, well, who even does that anymore? Who even buys them
I
anymore?
don't know,
What are we doing?
but that's what I'm saying. It's like, one, who buys Blu-ray discs anymore, and two, who's gonna fucking buy
You know
that
what?
movie?
I'm gonna go a step further. Who bought Blu-ray discs when they were out? There weren't many that you bought. Like there's only certain ones you
Yeah,
really bought.
no.
Madam Web at the height of Blu-ray would not be a Blu-ray that's bought. I don't care at any point
Yeah,
in
no. I
life.
don't think it would have made the
No,
cut
it
for a
wouldn't even made the
Blu-ray.
cut for a Blu-ray because like Blu-ray, if you didn't have one, your buddy that you're not really friends with, but you're kind of cool with because their parents always have the cool technology. And you're like, oh, let's
Yeah.
go over to Sean's house. We know Sean's got the Blu-ray of Spider-Man 3. We can all go watch it. Like that's who had the Blu-ray.
I remember Blu-ray took a huge jump when Avatar, the first Avatar came
Yeah,
out on
that's when people are
Blu-ray,
like, oh, I need to
and
get
people were
Blu-ray. I
like,
didn't see it in the theaters.
but imagine at that time you saw Avatar and Blu-ray, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, and then Madam Web is like right there, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. You
It's
know,
in
it's in
Blu-ray.
Blu-ray.
It's the only
Why
other one I
not?
have, and that first movie was so good in Blu-ray. It had to be the Blu-ray, right? It wasn't the
Yeah, it's
story or the
definitely the Blu-ray
acting or the shots or the
or the
rating or the
writing.
animation. None of that. No, it had to be the Blu-ray. So,
It had to
Madam
be
Web's the
Blu-ray,
same thing.
and it has Sydney Sweeney in Blu-ray.
I'm in.
I'm
I'm
taking
in.
that.
I have two
I'm
big
in.
Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Sketching Up. Remember, you can catch us online at Sketching Up Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. You can also catch us at Schnabel Studios on Instagram, Facebook, X/Twitter, TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Schnabel Studios as well. You can also find this anywhere you get your podcast. Just search Sketching Up and you can find us. Spotify, Apple, wherever you may get it. Check out schnabelstudios.com for more content, whether it's video or podcast. That's where it's all going to be. And just check us out. We're doing a lot of fun stuff. Matt, what do you have planned for Thanksgiving? What was your Thanksgiving plans, I should say?
My first time ever in my life, I am not doing anything for. I did not do anything for Thanksgiving.
Interesting.
I I had to work today, so my girlfriend's down in Maryland with her mom, and my parents decided not to come for Thanksgiving because they're looking to move to Arizona, so they're looking for houses. They're busy. So I said I'll work because then it'll be easier for me to have like more days off for Christmas.
Probably get overtime or
so
plus time, right? Or no?
Yeah, so and I'm trying to I don't want to ask too much because I just asked them I'm taking 2 weeks off to go to Alaska with my girlfriend. So I'm just playing it cool, nah, I'll work Thanksgiving week, I'll work Black Friday, which was a lot of fun, especially being in a retail
I'm sure.
store. That's
I'm
so
sure.
much fun. But it was just the first time I just kind of hung out. I found a stuffing recipe that like a sandwich stuffing recipe, because that's really what we eat. I don't really care about turkey, but I did shred turkey and then put it in with the stuffing mix that I made, and then put it into a hoagie roll.
That's what most people like about Thanksgiving is the food after Thanksgiving. Well, you get treated to some great football too.
Yeah, and it was because I love watching my Giants, and I love watching Dallas, two of the worst teams in the same division, play each other. It's
Dallas
so much fun.
Could have done the funniest thing of all time and signed Daniel Jones.
Yeah, because who in their right mind, even Jerry Jones, is sane enough to go,
it would just have been so funny.
It would have been so funny. It would have been hilarious. And it's just, and after what happened last Sunday to Tommy DeVito, I wasn't expecting much. And they're praying to God. They're praying to God that Drew Luck doesn't get hurt, because he has the same stipulation in his contract because that's why they didn't want to play Daniel Jones, is that if he gets hurt, he gets $23 million. Yeah. Guaranteed. So it's just a mess. So I just pretty much enjoyed my sandwich and my beer while that was going on. And stare at my fantasy. That's what
when I was my first year in grad school out in Spokane, I didn't go home and nobody came to me. I had a little Friendsgiving. I had, me, my roommate, I think only two other people. One of my friends, Josh, he's from Canada, and there was one other person, and I made a turkey. Which was cool. It's the only time I've ever done that. And I had everybody bring something over. We had a little Friendsgiving with the 3 or 4 of us. I don't even remember how many people were there at that time, but that's the only time I've ever. And this year we're at Mary's family's house, and Thanksgiving's cool. I think a lot of people like Thanksgiving a lot. It's one of their favorite. Christmas is my number one.
Yeah, no, I like Thanksgiving because when I was in school, because you got so many days off.
Yeah.
That was the cool part about it. Now that you're adult,
That
it
make a
doesn't really
difference.
matter.
Adult, I own a business.
When
I
it,
have no days off during Thanksgiving week.
okay, we get it. You started your own business. Cool.
Yeah, it's not. It's
My
you sound
my
like, yeah, cool, man. Yeah, we get it. I just said I don't get Thanksgiving off. I don't get Christmas off.
I, I I don't. I think like my whole thing with it was like it was also cool like after college because I would go out with my
Yeah,
friends and
yeah,
we'd
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
and we get now we're all adults. Like
You don't want to be
a bunch
caught
of my
going.
buddies are
Yeah, you
married
don't want to be caught going out
are
that day.
married and some of them have children now. So it's like we're not
No.
doing that anymore. And I just
Well,
I've like I don't
you
really
were in
look
grade
forward to it
school.
because the
You were in
past few
grade
times
school, and you were in
I
grade
work.
school, and you know Thanksgiving. You got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes Tuesday, sometimes the whole week, depending on the school you went to. Then you went to college, and you
Mhm.
got like usually Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday through Friday off. But you'd go that Wednesday to the bar and see all the high school people. And then you get out of college and you might go see some of the college people, or you might see the high school people again. So it's kind of fun. You're young, right? Now it's
Yeah.
like I'm not going out on the Wednesday to see people. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that.
No,
Boy, I
that's
gotta
just
work. Boy, I
yeah,
gotta
like
work.
I gotta just chill out on Thursday. If I want to drink, like I gotta start drinking at 11, so I don't have a hangover on
Oh
Friday when I
man,
go walk
I
through the
don't.
doors.
I
You know,
don't.
like
Don't
that's how
miss
it
those
is.
days. I don't miss the days of waking up
So,
hungover, feeling like duty, like duty.
hmm
Speaking.
and my hangovers are so much worse
Well,
now
yeah,
than
yeah,
they
of
were.
course they are. Your body
You remember
metabolizes
when you could
different.
just pop up the next day and you're like, "Let's get it,
Man,
let's go for another
listen,
round, let's do it." Like I remember being out until 2 in the morning, then waking up at like 10, getting breakfast, and then being like, "Oh, okay, we're going
when
to
I
day drink
was
now," and doing that.
450 pounds, I could take down more drinks than anyone I knew, wake up the next day, and be perfectly fine. I,
Yeah.
I don't I don't drink anymore. But when I do occasionally have a drink or two, next day, feel like garbage. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
Nora's like, you guys sound so
Yeah,
old
well,
right
yeah.
now. And she's like, I'm only 5 years old, so I can't
Hey,
do
I may
anything.
be 31, but my cardiovascular age is -5, meaning I have the cardiovascular age of a 26-year-old. That's all I care about.
I am I am 32 and my knees are
Oh,
75.
listen, don't get me started. I carried 450 pounds for 27 years. You want to talk about bad knees?
I don't have either meniscus, so if I'm going out like my knees hurt if I drink too much and I wake up the next morning hungover. Not just my head, my knees hurt
Oh
the
man.
next morning, and I'm like, oh my
My
god,
my head
this is
hurts
awful.
just thinking of all this. But anyway, everybody, we won't keep
Yeah.
you up with these stories. Thank you so much for listening to Sketching Up. We really appreciate it. If you have missed any episodes, you can always go back and listen to them. And there's a new one coming out every Friday from now on. So thank you so much. We will see you later. This has been Sketching Up. Yeah.